Uh, so I'm to talk about the feedback. Few people were contacted for the feedback to give some informal feedback. But actually, for these lectures, we have to take a feedback very in a structured way. Mm, before asking the all the participants for their data um, to release the certificates for the attendance, certificate for the participation. So we will collect the feedback in the structured form from all the participants who have been attending these lectures for a long time. So before doing that, actually, today I wanted to discuss something important. So I have written one. No, sorry. Yeah. So I have written few comments here before discussing. Mm. As Dr. Lavinia from Romania has shared her feedback in the email, and Michael has posted a portion of the comment on this chat box. So please read about this comment. She has written very nicely her feedback about informal feedback about this lecture series. Okay. In light of this, I simply want to share something important, which mm, so my question is why these lectures, global lectures, are important, and why different people from different parts of the world should join this kind of the lectures. In fact, let me share you one experience which I have had in Ukraine 5 years ago. I was lecturing in the university at Ivano-Frankivsk, where one of the listeners questioned me, because in that particular lecture I was explaining some cases from Asian country. So he asked me why I was discussing the Asian countries in the classroom or in the hall of a European university. So he just asked that, and he was concerned. He also explained his question after that he was not really interested in anything which was coming from Asia or Africa or other part of the world. He was more concerned for his own country. So why was I explaining that? So he was a very straight question. So here I am not going to discuss what I had answered. But in the light of this particular question, I like to emphasize something, that why are the universities or the systems in United States or United Kingdom are so prominent across the world? Their universities are number one universities. Their scholars, whatever they have been writing in the research or they have been inventing, why are they more popular in the world? Why the Asian countries academics or Asian countries practitioners, they refer to the American research, British research, British scholars, or many European scholars? So what are the importance of them, and why is it so? It is simply because if we see from the different angle, like the American universities or British universities or many European universities, Australian, etc., they have the very special, benches or special sections or special projects studying the Asian countries. Literally, all countries are important for them. So they take the interest in the global affairs. They take the interest in different countries. They are not only confined to themselves. I'm not saying that they are not doing any research or the work or they are not writing in context of their own countries, but simultaneously they have been very interested in various parts of the world. So, and that is how they have been ruling the world. Because without knowing the other parts of the world, other part of the countries or other part of the societies, communities, people, you really cannot intervene. You really cannot intervene, or you cannot speak on behalf of them. So it is very important to listen to other perspectives, other countries, other experiences, the scholars or the researchers from the other parts of the world. So if you are confined to your own territory, really you are living in a, you are really living some eggshell. I mean, the shell you have around yourself and you cannot come out of it. So therefore, it is really important when we talk about the other perspectives, other parts of the world. So this is just one thing. These kind of the lectures are, and I think Dr. Lavinia has also raised similar things in her comment, in her feedback. So another important angle I should speak here is that in the Asian countries and African countries, I have closely seen from my early stage of my student life and the career, particularly, that the Asians and Africans give a large importance to the views and the opinions of the Western country scholars or Western country professors or researchers. So we usually, in our developing countries, we usually refer to, we talk more about the Americans, we talk more about the British research or the European research or the Australian research. So can it not be reverse? This is my primary question and primary concern. So can the Asians or Africans not be the primary speakers and primary researchers, the forefront researchers, and cannot the Western countries people hear and listen to us? Can it not be reverse? So in this particular platform of the global lectures, I particularly invite all the audience to observe this phenomena closely, that we are really trying to reverse it. We are bringing many Asian and many developing countries speakers. Although this is not a rule, we have had the speakers from developed countries like Canada, like parts of the Europe. That's not the rule, but we are trying to bring many Asians, even we will bring from Africa as well in the time to come. But we are trying this, and we are also simultaneously trying to bring many audience from many people from the developed countries, and we believe that they should listen to the perspectives and the experiences of the experts from the developing countries, coming from the developing countries, and they have very important and significant knowledge and experience. So I remember particularly if in the developed countries, developed countries, like if some scholar or some practitioner, either in the NGO or a sitting university platform, if they have some experience of the developing countries or country or poor country, they are really giving more incentives. They are giving better profile in their respective jobs, and they are given better, you know, increments or better, improvements, and even better jobs they get if they have the vibrant experience, not only of their countries but also of the developing countries, and particularly from Africa. If they have, they are really preferred in their jobs. So, but my question, now I started with this, the story from Ukraine. So my answer is that we all audience, the audience, and also the audience who are not potential audience, I need to say, can have, can receive a global perspective in the form of these lectures. So thank you for listening to me, and I'm really happy when the Ukrainian people especially are joining our lectures in large number, and they have been really coming out of their shell. They have been listening to, although they are not very good, some of them are not very good in English, but still they have been trying, and this is a commendable thing for us, and very happy note for us that they have been coming out and, taking the interest in the global affairs. Thank you so much. So now I invite Dr. Hishmi for this lecture. So Dr. Hishmi, do you have someone to introduce you here in this platform?
I'm not sure, Dr. Hassan.
Okay. Then what I do, I just briefly introduce you first from the information I do have on the web page. Okay, right? And then you will start. So, dear friends, the doctor, we have this special guest today, Dr. Hishmi Jamil. He is from India. He's a distinguished speaker and lead author, and also associated with IPBS. IPBS is a very renowned global platform under the shadow of uh, many global institutions like CBD, United Nations Environment Program, FAO, etc. But this is the independent intergovernmental platform. Okay, so Dr. Hishmi has done his higher degrees from Netherlands, Switzerland, and he graduated from very renowned institute in India, is Forest Research Institute, in which I was also registered for PhD for 7 years, but I could not complete that. Okay. So he's the member of IUCN and a number of associations, including Club of Rome. I don't know what it is, but Club of Rome. So he is also advisory council member at the Grassroots Institute, and he is representing many other platforms. So he used to be a awarded young scientist, environmental scientist. So currently he has been serving as the head of the biodiversity at Tata Steel, Tata Group. So I think our global audience know the name of this Tata. Tata is the oldest name in India, in the industry, among the industries. Okay. So rest of the things he will explain, and he is the expert of corporate social responsibility. He is talking about the conservation, nature-based solutions, etc. Okay, now Dr. Hishmi, please take this session. Sorry, take over, and then now you please go ahead. People are listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hasrat, and thank you to Grassroot for giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk, to tell my experiences to the global audiences. And the topic which I am going to speak today, business and biodiversity. I'm sure that most of you know about the importance of the biodiversity, but the businesses are also involving in conservation of biodiversity. And the reason is very simple and clear, because the biodiversity is giving us an opportunity for the sustainable development. If we want to achieve the sustainable development as a whole, the Agenda 2030, we need to invest on the biodiversity. Nevertheless, in the next 60 minutes, I will try to cover some of the very important aspects of the biodiversity loss which is happening globally. We all as a individual, scientist, academician know there is some very serious problem around us. I will also explain you why the businesses are investing on the biodiversity briefly. I will also cover some of the stories related to the investment for the biodiversity conservation. Nevertheless, it is also very important when we are talking about the global perspectives. There are some very common things which individually me and you can do for conservation. So I will also explain some small tips, and I'm sure that in which geography you are, you definitely appreciate that it is important for all of us. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next. So we all know that the Mother Earth is having about 8.5 million species. So 1 million species are threatened to extinct. So this is something the foundation of the whole world is talking about, the biodiversity loss. So there is a dangerous decline of the nature, which is unprecedented. And it is accelerating. It is something that's not stopping. Whatever we are doing as a global response, it is insufficient. You perhaps seen in COP27, there are some commitment has come, but still these commitments are not meeting the demand or meeting the expectation what the nature is expecting from us. In COP15, we are going to meet in Montreal this year again, and we are again going to talk that how we can make and live nature with harmony. So we need to have some very important transformative changes. We need to have something to protect the Mother Earth. Can we go to the next slide? To put more visibility about what we have done in the past as a human being. So this graph is very simple. This research has been published in 2011. You perhaps seen that the human being, 10,000 years before, we have habitated only 1% of the Mother Earth. And as on date, as a human being, we have captured 32% of the Mother Earth. 99% was covered by the wildlife. And as on date, only 1% is covered by the wildlife. And these are some very important statistics which are asking us to think why the COVID-19 has jumped to the human being. Why the other pandemics are knocking our doors. You perhaps know the last pandemic happened 100 years before, the Great Spanish Flu. 100 years before to that, 1800, we were faced the plague. In 1700th century, we faced the cholera. So there was a 100-year time period before the pandemic knocked. But after the COVID-19, you perhaps seen the monkeypox and the other pandemics are also knocking our door. And this is clearly indicating there is a major risk. there is a big risk. When we are destructing the habitats, definitely it is going to impact all of us. Can we go to the next slide, please? These are some statistics published by the IPPS and many other agencies. I was part of the IPPS assessment from the Asia Pacific. If you talk about the terrestrial ecosystem, ocean ecosystem, and the species, there is a loss has been reported everywhere. We have lost one third of the world topsoil. We have lost almost 17% of the Amazon forest in the last 50 years. More than 85% wetland has been lost, and these wetlands are the kidney for the Mother Earth. 32% of the world forest area has been destroyed, and these forests are the lungs for the Mother Earth. So now try to correlate the human health. We cannot survive for a long time if our lungs are not working, if our kidneys are not working. Similarly, you perhaps seen that the ocean ecosystem has destroyed. We have lost 85% of freshwater species. We have lost 41% of the insect species. And the loss of insects is very important and crucial for our food supply. 36% of our food supply is depend on the pollinators. 99% of the flowering happening because of the pollinators. Since 1970, we have lost almost 60% of the vertebrates. So these are some numbers which are forcing all of us to think for conservation of biodiversity. Can we go to the next slide, please? This picture, I'm sure that some of you have seen it, and this picture is clearly indicating that what are the risks are around us. World Economic Forum last few years releasing a list of the top 5 risks or top 10 risks around the globe. We all know that the COVID-19 has just hit us, and still it is surviving in some of the pockets in the world. If you compare the amount of the destruction has been done by the COVID-19, we have lost our friends, our relatives, people lost jobs, the GDP has been vanished in many of the countries, many of the businesses shut down for 2 years. So if you see the amount of COVID-19 has destroyed, that is represented in this picture, the recession which is again knocking us, all of us globally can connect how the major companies are laying off the people, how the financial advisors are suggesting, please save your money, don't invest it on the TV or the films or on the tourism, because we are expecting some very, very difficult time knocking us. The climate change, it is another very important thing. Globally, we have identified and we have seen the destruction by floods in Europe, the forest fire in Amazon, in Australia, in Canada, in many parts of the world. Because of the climate change, there are the droughts, there are the floods. The severity of the weather is happening more and more, and overarching is the biodiversity collapse. So if we want to survive, if we want to bring our business continuity, we need to invest on biodiversity. Yeah, can go to the next slide, please. So this is the systematic way how the World Economic Forum has reported this. So you perhaps see in 2021, they've reported the infectious disease is the first risk for the mankind, followed by the climate action, weapons of the mass destruction, biodiversity loss, and the natural crisis. So you perhaps seen since 2017 to 2021, only the sequence of these risks are changing, but these are commonly present. And if you want to make ourselves resilient, we need to think, we need to work on the sustainability principles. These principles are very simple. These principles are straight. These are not different for Asia, for Africa, for Europe, for America, for Australia. These principles are common and can be implementable anywhere. These are not aligned only for the major corporates, not the developed countries, not the developing countries. These are the yardstick for our survival as a whole, as a human being. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the severity of the climate change is happening. It is impacting the market value and the goods and services. This is the one reason why the corporates are so much concerned about the biodiversity conservation. Climate change is affecting the distribution of the species globally, and we need to build resilient and a stable ecosystem. Those who remember the 2005 tsunami, only those area, those coasts will, were able to protect themselves because of the mangroves. So mangroves are nothing. These are some of the plants which grow across the coast. And this is one of the nature-based solution what the God has given us, and we are able to survive because of the mangrove in coastal region. I have traveled length and breadth to the globe. I was in 13 countries. I have studied in many parts of the world. I have attended 13 universities. So I can talk that the how the global phenomena is common and the problem is common for all of us. The two important cycles, the carbon cycle and the water cycle, these are the two cycles which are directly dependent on the biodiversity and ecosystem. And these two cycles are disturbing. One cycle because we are emitting global the greenhouse gases. Because of overheating, there is a lot of water vapor is happening. Because of increasing in temperature, the glaciers are melting. And these two cycles, which are important for all of us, these are disturbing. Can we go to the next slide, please? So with this background, now we realize that businesses are the key stakeholders and can be active partner for the conservation. How they can be the important stakeholder? By informing their impact and the dependencies. This picture I have taken from the Bundelkhand. It is central part of India, which is famous for its droughts. Now you can connect an area which is famous for the drought, but because of the initiative, because of the water conservation initiative, that area is having a very lush green forest. Globally, this is a framework around UNEP. Wherever you go, there is an environment impact assessment. So whenever you are creating any business, you have to inform about your environmental impact. You must inform about the dependencies. If you are approaching to the IMF, if you are approaching to the World Bank, ADB, wherever you are going, you need to report about your dependencies and impact on biodiversity. And a being responsible business, as globally we know, the businesses are getting more and more responsible because they understand that if we are going to do a responsible business, it will definitely help in a long run. There are a couple of corporates who are the live example of sustainability and the good governance and the responsible business, and Tata Steel is one of them. There are many. For protecting the biodiversity, it is very important that the corporates must having their defined policy, their defined actions. The IMF has clearly indicated in the guideline that how you need to have a land stewardship. How could you have a biodiversity management? Similarly, The positions like Chief Sustainability Officer is required for the major corporates. Now there is a request to have the biodiversity advisors if you are looking for the funding from the external resources. When these corporates are open to share the resources for the conservation, I will share some of the case studies where you can see that how there is a sustainable development growth and how there is a biodiversity conservation and how the business are growing. Can we go to the next slide, please? So it is very important until and unless there must be integration of the biodiversity in the core business. How one can do or integrate the biodiversity in the core business? First of all, to understand the baselines, understand the ecosystem services. We cannot survive without water as a human being. Similarly, businesses are also cannot survive without water, without the ecosystem services. These ecosystem services are tangible and non-tangible. So we can calculate the value and the benefit of the tangible ecosystem services, but there are non-tangible benefits, just like oxygen, the clean air, and it is important for our health. We can avoid our impact in the critical habitats. So we are having IUCN. There are several bodies around the globe which are helping to understanding that which area is having the pristine forest, the key species, the endangered species. Considering all these aspects in the business, one corporate can make a plan which is called the biodiversity management plan to achieve the no net loss of biodiversity. No net loss of biodiversity is a very simple terminology, I would say. When we accept that something is simple, then it is easy to do it. It can be happen, it can be implemented in Africa, it can implemented in Asia, anywhere in the world. So the first thing is avoid the mitigation hierarchy. The second is reduce your impact. If possible, you can reduce. If you can avoid, if you are avoiding, then reducing. Then the third step is mitigating. There are some mining operations because mining is directly related with the location. And if you see the global map of the mineral resources, forest resources, and the Aboriginal people, you find there is an overlap. So when we are doing some mining, it is definitely impacting the people who are living around us. It is impacting the biodiversity, it is impacting the water resources. And it is the reason that the Agenda 2030, which is having these 17 goals, these are also aligned around this. If we are integrating our business with the high value of the biodiversity, there are benefits. As I explained, the IMF is having critical the World Bank, ADB, all required. There must be the biodiversity management plan. So there is a better access to the capital, create a new business opportunities. Now you will ask that how it can create the new opportunities. I will share the cases where the livelihood has been lost because of loss of the biodiversity. But when these conservation initiative placed, they help in earning the livelihood. It is also helping in building a brand and the reputation. In many of the countries, there is essential, there is a regulatory commitment. If I talk about Canada, Australia, India, America, there are compensation around the damages which are happening because of the business. So if you are doing the business, you perhaps essentially require some of the regulatory commitment and the permissions. And if you are conserving the biodiversity, you are getting these permissions. In India, it is called the forest diversion, the forest clearance, the environment clearance. In Australia, it is called Aboriginal clearance, the no objection certificates from the communities. which is called the social license to operate. And when you are investing to the communities in terms of biodiversity conservation, definitely these are the long run gains to the business. Can we go to the next slide? So we talk about the integration of biodiversity. So because of business, there is a risk associated and there are the opportunities. So loss of biodiversity is one of the major risks because of the corporate land degradation when we are doing mining, making the infrastructure project, impact on the ecosystem service, the regulatory risk, and the community unrest. Many part of the world, people are dependent on the non-timber forest produce. What they are collecting from the forest, these are their livelihoods. The opportunities lying that if you are impacting or lose, you are the reason of biodiversity loss, you are having the opportunity for the species conservation. I will talk about the vulture conservation. So you can see that how one of the critically endangered species was conserved by the corporate with the help of NGO partner, with the help of government, with the help of community. The soil conservation, another very important aspect because of deforestation, there is erosion. If we are doing the afforestation program, it will help in soil conservation. Remediation and rehabilitation. So many of the area which has been mined out, it can be conserved. Protection of the ecosystem and their services. This is another opportunity. With the help of deforestation program, with the help of nature-based solutions, there are significant amount of livelihood generation. There are a couple of examples from the globe where there is investment on biodiversity management and it is creating the employment to the people. In Africa, there are places and pocket. In India, there are places and pocket, even in Australia, where these Aboriginal do not have direct source of their livelihood, but the plant nursery has been created where these people are growing the plants and selling to the corporates. And the corporates are using these plants for their afforestation program. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now I briefly talk about the Tata Steel. So this is the map of India. My apologies that I'm talking about Asia. Dr. Asrat has indicated the expectation of the audience that you want to listen something around the globe. And I'm sure if the next opportunity will be given to me, I will talk and share some of the case studies from the globe. This is the work I am associated last 5 years. Prior joining to Tata Steel, I work for Rio Tinto in Australia Asia region. So I have spent good time in different continents. So these are some of the locations within the 30. So if you know about India, the eastern part of India, there are the location of Tata Steel mines as well as the steel making plant. Can we go to the next slide, please? So you perhaps having a question that why the corporates are so much committed about the biodiversity. And people used to ask me this question simply, why the steel making company is talking about the biodiversity conservation. So these are the 4 areas which we have identified after the COP21. In 2015, it happened in Paris. And the world know about this problem after the COP21. It has socialized the problem of climate change. It has socialized the water problem, the waste problem, and the IPBES report has indicated how the biodiversity loss is happening. So at a group level, the Tata Group is focusing on these 4 areas. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we have got the guidance from the group. These are the 4 key areas where we need to work, the Tata Group company. Fortunately, Tata Steel is the pioneer which has started working on this since 1905. When nobody was talking about the sustainability, when nobody was talking about the water crisis in Jamshedpur, in India, the founders of Tata Steel have created a man-made water body to capture the rainwater. The location of this plant is on the confluence of two rivers, the Subarnrekha and the Kharkai, again because of availability of the water. So we have done the materiality exercise. Those who are not familiar about this exercise, it is simple exercise to understand what is impacting the business health. So if I will go through my medical checkup, and if I got the high BP, and if I got some sugar level high, it means for me it is important to maintain my sugar level. It is important for me to maintain my body weight. Then only I can survive healthy life. Similar way for this materiality exercise, these are the three buckets: the environmental bucket, the social, and the governance. So the key points has been identified that the carbon emissions. Now the whole world is talking about how to reduce our carbon footprint, how to achieve the carbon neutral, the energy efficiency, the renewable and the clean energy, the water consumption, circular economy, the air pollution because of the compliance, the waste management. So all these things has been identified, and the biodiversity was one of the key material issue for Tata Steel. Globally, the corporates who are now sensitized with the help of IUCN, one of a flagship program, Leader for Nature, it has been started, and Tata Steel, one of the founder, member of it. So now the corporates are understanding that if there is an impact on biodiversity, our business is going to be impacted. Similarly, in terms of social, the occupational health, labors, the sexual harassment, workplace, the talent retention, the governance aspects, all these things are very important for business continuity. Can we go to the next slide? Based on this materiality exercise, the 5 key area has been identified by Tata Steel, reducing our carbon footprint. So we are focusing how we can reduce our carbon footprint. We are focusing how we can reduce our freshwater consumption because we know the water is going to be scarce. We know that whatever we are doing for reducing the temperature of Mother Earth, the IPCC 6 report has indicated these are not sufficient actions. The green energy and the technology, the global leaders has committed for 2050 commitment, and green energy and the technologies are the rider to achieve the carbon neutrality or to reduce the temperature of Mother Earth. Imbibing the principle of circular economy. So we all talk reduce, reuse, recycle. So these are the 3 principles. And again, we need to further clean and make them as a part of the business. So the no waste should produce. Last but not least, the no net loss of biodiversity. Now we all know that the biodiversity loss is happening. The loss is unprecedented. The loss is very, very fast. It is accelerating day by day. So we need to act to achieve the no net loss of biodiversity. This picture has been taken during the COVID lockdown. So Lakshadweep, those who are familiar about the Arabian Ocean, this is one of a Indian state, Union Territory, and Mumbai is another coastal. Generally, you do not find these dolphin in the Mumbai because of the pollution, because of the population pressure. But because of lockdown, we have seen there is a retrieval of the biodiversity happening. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what is the business case? It is very important to understand until and unless the businesses are getting the profit or getting the benefit, no one will invest on that. So the important, you can see these two pictures. This is one of a coal mine, open pit in eastern part of India, and the reclamation work has been done on this mine. So the very important thing is the quality and quantity of the ecosystem service inputs, just like water. If we are not investing on the biodiversity, we will not get the water because water is directly related with the forest. Forests play an important role as a watershed. License to operate, it is again very important that if your business is causing damage to the biodiversity, if you are not doing the compulsory afforestation, you will not allow to work in the area. The reputation and the opinion of the NGOs and the other association, if you are investing on the biodiversity, you will definitely get the support even from the NGOs. I will talk about the NGO which is very famous for this bird conservation, the BirdLife International, the Bombay Naturalistic Society. They supported the mining operation in central India. And nevertheless, whenever there is a requirement of the external finance, as I explained, the IMF and World Bank, ADB, all require that you must have the biodiversity management plan for your project. Can we go to the next slide, please? So whatever I am talking, similar kind of the cases has been started with the help of on the partnerships. So Tata Steel started the journey in 2013. The International Union for Conservation Nature helped in drafting the policy, evaluation of the baselines, developing of the biodiversity management plan. For the governance, we establish a apex committee, the Center of Excellence for Biodiversity Management, and the representative from the all locations. So there must be communication, there must be alignment. What is happening globally that can be translated into the core business, and it could be actionable thing. What the CBD has done in 1992, they have given the targets, the ACHI target. You all perhaps familiar with that, but unfortunately, we have not got much progress globally in the ACHI target. So the CBD has given the opportunity to the countries to design their national biodiversity targets. So in many of the countries, they have made their national biodiversity targets, and these are very simple targets that increase the awareness among the people. It is the national biodiversity target one for India. Similarly, it is the one of the ACHI target, conservation of the landscapes, conservation of the water bodies, traditional knowledge. So all these things we have aligned and planned and implemented with the help of biodiversity management plans. And it is not simple. You did not find many of the experts on biodiversity who are working for the corporates. You cannot find many of the corporate people who are trained to work for the biodiversity. So there is a very strong, there is a big gap between the corporate understanding and the real biodiversity management. But organization like IUCN helped such kind of gaps, and they gave and they guided us that how we can achieve the no net loss of biodiversity. So this is one of the commitment of Tata Steel. Many of the corporates globally having this commitment. So avoid the unacceptable impact to the biodiversity, reduce the impact, restore, and seek the additional opportunities wherever these are available. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we all know about this story. I would like to tell the Millennium Development Goals. It started from 2005 when I was a student in The Hague at the ISS. And that time also the world was very much committed that we will achieve that Millennium Development Goals. But unfortunately, there was not so much success because of the clarity. But in 2015, the UN, United Nations came with very simple framework, and they have divided these goals into the 17 goals. So if you see the biodiversity related goals, these are two: life below water and the life on land. So If we are working for these two goals, we will achieve the no poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being, affordable and clean energy, decent work, the climate action, peace and justice. And you will perhaps ask those who have not studied about that how these goals are supporting or contributing towards the peace and justice. If you see the agriculture sector, it is contributing towards out of 12 national biodiversity target to 8. Similarly, the forestry is contributing to 6 targets, and the mining sector is also contributing to 17 targets. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the integration of the SDG 15 life on land. So we all talk about that sustainably managed forest. This decade, the 2020 to 2030 has been declared the decade of ecosystem restoration because we want to stop the desertification, halt the rivers degradation, sustainable use of the terrestrial ecosystem, and halt the biodiversity loss. And how it could be achieved. So this is an example where we have integrated the SDG 15 to achieve the no net loss of biodiversity by understanding, recognizing the dynamics of the nature, follow with the environmental impact assessment, collaboration in the leverage, support the projects which are directly related with the community and the biodiversity conservation, encouraging the landscape leveling planning, restoring the habitats, and collaborating with the various academicians and the research partners. So this is the simplest way if you are integrating your Agenda 2030 or SDGs in the biodiversity, these are easily to achieve. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now I will tell you some of the initiatives which the whole world is doing for ages. But after the Agenda 2030, the understanding make the people to map all these initiatives. So afforestation, again, it is related to life on land. And it is again contributing towards conservation of biodiversity. And it is basically, if you see the target 15.2, so it should be achieved by 2020, promote the implementation of sustainability management of all type forest, halt the deforestation, restore the degraded forest, and substantially increase the afforestation and restoration globally. So this is as simple. You can see that one corporate has done some mining activity and they have restored the same thing into a lavish green forest. Can we go to the next slide, please? Water is another very scarce resource. When we are doing the mining, so there are the pits are creating, and we can utilize these pits to create or to collect the rainwater. So across mining locations, which I have shown in the figure, these can be utilized in capturing the rainwater. And again, it is aligned with the 15.1 target of Agenda 2030, target 15. So if I read out, it ensure the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use, again, wetlands, mountain, drylands, wherever we are having the opportunity to conserve the water. Can we go to the next slide, please? When we are cutting the forest, there is a significant amount of habitat loss. And because of habitat loss, these birds and especially the avian flora, fauna which is around us, it is also going to be extinct. So one of the program with the help of IUCN, we have started put some of the nest, and these nesting program got very good success and a lot of attraction by corporates because it is easy to implement. And again, it is aligned with the target 15.5 of the SDG. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now I will talk about three case studies. Two case studies are from Tata Steel and one is from Rio Tinto. I work for Rio Tinto, especially I was associated with that project also. And this is the work which we have done recently. So in the pictures, you can see before and the after. So mining has been done in the area and all has been converted into butterfly garden, hibiscus garden, medicinal plant garden. So 100 hectare of a dump site converted into the biodiversity park. It has been done in association with the local NGOs, the communities. There is a nursery has been created with a capacity of 1 lakh saplings. So again, this is helping the local communities for getting the livelihood. They are getting the employment. The environmental conditions are improving, and nevertheless, biodiversity is enhancing. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is another example where the corporate has invested on rejuvenation of the water body. As I told you, 85% of the wetland has been lost in last 300 years, and these are the kidney of the Mother Earth. So the business case is why we invest for this augmentation or cleaning of this water body. You can see the before and after pictures. So you can see the change. So it is helping in creating the rainwater about 82,000 kiloliter, planted 5,000 plants. It helped in increase of biodiversity, birds, the migratory birds. And these two cases has been recognized by Confederation of Indian Industries, as well as IUCN also published the bird niche nesting and the afforestation case studies. In COP13, which happened in Delhi under the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework of Climate Change and Stopping the Desertification, in that also this work was presented. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the work which has been done by Rio Tinto, another corporate which is also very responsible. So they invested on vulture conservation, vulture safe zone. So you perhaps having a question, why this vulture? So I click this picture in scorching noon time. It was about 50 degrees temperature in central India. These are the natural scavenger because they eat or remove the rotten meat. So these are the critical part of the food chain. Since 1980, 99% of vulture population has been declined, and IUCN has reported them as one of the critical endangered species and required to be conserved. If we are going to IMF, if we are going to the Government of India for the permission, and the reason of decline was the diclofenac. It is a painkiller. The many of us use Bovron when we are having some critical pain. And what happened because of loss of this bird, the income loss of the people who were associated with the skin and bone collection, there was a public hazard because when the cattle are dying and they are rotting, they are creating the water pollution, soil pollution, which is causing cholera. Another very important aspect of that, the number of rabies cases has increased because the dogs are getting more food once these birds were not around. So the population of the dogs has increases. In last 2 decades, there is a research, published research, in which it was indicated the rabies, the dog bite cases has increased significantly. The dog population has increased because of vanishing of vulture. There is a very good movie you can go to YouTube and find Vanishing Vulture, and you perhaps realize the importance of this bird, which I am not able to explain because of the paucity of time. Can we go to the next slide? So what we have done, we make the awareness under the business and biodiversity program. First thing was to engage with some of the NGO partners. So BirdLife International, you perhaps know globally they are working for the bird conservation. They were one of the partner of Rio Tinto globally. They were helping bird conservation in Australia, Canada. So we started with the bird watching event in the areas. Bombay Natural History Society, again, very prestigious NGO, famous, more than 100-year-old, famous for the bird conservation. So we have started a partnership in 2014 for 5 years. Before coming to this partnership, I have started the work on the ground in 2007 to increase the awareness about the birds. Many of the people don't understand the importance of the birds, the reason the birds are damaging their crops. In India, in many of the African countries, the larger population is dependent on agriculture, so they feel that the birds are enemy. But we explained them that how these birds are not enemy, these are the doctor of the nature. They kill the insects which are harmful for your crop. So what we have taken an area in the central India, you perhaps see in the map. So that comprises two areas, two parts from the states of Uttar Pradesh as well as Bundelkhand in Madhya Pradesh. So we have covered about 32 square kilometer area. Now you will ask why we have covered 32,000 square kilometer area. The vulture is a bird which can fly 100 kilometer. So at least 100-kilometer radius we need to take. Now you will ask why we have taken to the central India, because where we were developing a diamond mine in central India, that was the area which was having the population of these critically endangered birds. So there was the opportunity to conserve these species. There was the opportunity to invest on the conservation so these birds can thrive and make the people aware that what is the reason of the vanishing vulture. It was the dichophonac. So we have engaged with the communities. So it helped in building a relation with the community. My team used to travel about 4,000 kilometers every month, and they are meeting about 45,000 people in a month. Now try to understand the amount of the work has been pumped. You can see the graph which we have recorded the use of the diclofenac, which was the reason of the death of the vultures. So in 2014, you perhaps see it was the highest reported 49%, and which has been reduced to 18% because of engagement and awareness. So it was the results which I am presenting. It was the 3 years last hard work. When the use of, so in this engagement, the forest department, the pharmacist, the farmers, the school children, teacher, all the stakeholders were involved. And that was one of the very nice business and biodiversity case, which has been reported by IUCN, as well as it has been reported by International Council for Mining and Metals. It has been presented as one of its sustainable mining initiative. So there are 10 principles of sustainable mining, in which one is exclusively talking about biodiversity conservation. And all these things were aligned with the business growth. Can we go to the next slide? So now I will talk something which is important, which you can do individually. So this is a global pollution. It is not just in the developing countries or the developed countries. So this is the World Health Organization, which has been done the research and identified these are the pollutants which are exist in your room, where we are sitting, wherever we are globally. So these pollutants are inside. So benzene, you perhaps know, it is causing the cancer, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, naphthalene. It is not just specific to Asia or Africa. It is globally. So these gases are inside. After this session, I'm sure you will take some lead and you will try to adopt this very simple solution, sustainable solution. Many of the air clean machine, the air purifiers are available globally. but this is the cheapest and the easiest. And these plants found globally. These are not restricted to the global geographical boundaries. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are the very simple plants which you can keep in your bedroom, in your drawing room, in your working space, and these are found globally. These are not having restrictions, these are not having any allergen. Even the NASA has used couple of plants in their spacecraft to cleaning the air quality. These plants specifically absorb the pollutant which I have shown in the previous slide. You can also read my article in detail. The link has been given on the bottom, and you can contribute in improving your health. Even in our offices, as a corporate initiative, we also put these important plants to cleaning the air quality. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the last slide of my presentation, and I'm sure that the things which I am telling, these are applicable and having a very strong impact to everyone's life. First important thing that many of you perhaps having a good knowledge of biodiversity, but many of us not know that biodiversity is so much important. So I suggest you to join some of the nature club online, offline, wherever you are. As I explained you, there is a dangerous decline in the population of the pollinators. So we need to conserve them. For their conservation, we need to plant some of the flowering trees. So these butterfly and bee can get their food as a nectar. We need to plant some of the area with the fruit trees so these birds can get their food. We can protect the natural habitat wherever we are having. This is in our hand to take walk to reduce our carbon footprint. This is in our hand to reduce our water wastage or conserve the water. Adopt the principle of reduce, reuse, and recycle in our day-to-day life. We should visit the local botanical gardens to understand what is happening, what are the important things are around. And these are also very good for our mental health. Good health is very important, but mental health is also essential. In many of the part of the world, we know there is a now if you are in the southern hemisphere, there are the summers are knocking, so you can install some of the bird baths. If you are in the northern hemisphere where winters are coming, you can put some of the bird feeders so bird can get the food, and you can put these in your windows. So these are some of the initiatives which individually you and me can do for the mother earth, for our future generation. Can we go to the next slide? So this is the last slide, and we will utilize the remaining time for the question answer. So I'm recapping my talk. I talked about how the land use pattern in terms of coverage by the wildlife and coverage by the human being has been shifted in the last 10,000 years. I talked about the risks which are around us in terms of COVID, recession, climate change, and biodiversity. I talked about the key focus of Tata Steel, and many of the corporates are having the key focus to reduce our carbon footprint, whether it is a steel industry, whether it is a automobile industry, name the industry, they are trying to reduce their carbon footprint. I talked about how the Agenda 2030 can be integrated in your core business. I have taken case studies from two companies, Tata Steel and Rio Tinto, how you can conserve the water bodies, how you can conserve the wasteland into the forest, and how you can conserve the bird species, which is very critical for our survival. And I also talked about how you and me individually can contribute for biodiversity conservation. Can we go to the next slide? These are my contact details. I will be more than happy to address your questions. Thank you very much. So these are some backup slides I just kept. If any question arises, so I will talk on it.
Hello, sir.
So now audience is requested to raise the hand or just speak on the mic, please. Can also speak on video. Yes, yes.
Hello, sir.
Speak,
Yes,
Hello,
please
you are
sir.
speak.
audible.
So my name is Sonam Sherpa, sir. I'm speaking all the way from Bhutan. Sir, my question to you is that regarding with the biodiversity laws, how can you relate with anthropogenic activities and climate change, sir?
Thank you for this very important question. So one of slide I have explained that 10,000 years before, there were 99% land was covered by the wildlife, and now only 1% is covered by the wildlife. So the anthropogenic activities like you are making the colonies. I was in Bhutan in 2019, and I have seen there is a lot of conservation work has been done. There are very strict policies are in place by the government, and that is the reason there are some mining is happening even in Bhutan. So when we are doing the mining, it is anthropogenic activity, and mining happen in a forest area. So when we are doing the mining, we are cutting the forest, and this is the direct impact on the biodiversity with the help of anthropogenic activities. For our development, we need furniture, we are cutting the forest. For our development, we need the land for constructing the schools, we are cutting the forest. So all these activities are anthropogenic in nature and destroying the biodiversity. Now your question is the climate change. So when we have done the industrialization, so the carbon dioxide level has increased. When the carbon dioxide level has increased in the atmosphere, the global temperature has increased because these are putting the envelope on the Mother Earth. So the temperature is increasing and the ice melting is happening. The rate of melting of ice in Himalayas has been doubled in last 20 years. I did my PhD on Himalayas.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answer, sir.
You are welcome.
Any other question? Yes. If you want to write in the chat box, you please do write. Yes. Okay.
And if anyone want to give the feedback, I will also welcome your feedback also. Whether my presentation was audible, clear, I'm able to explain the global audience about the topic or not. So that will also help. Okay, I'm going to the chat box and reading some of the questions.
Yes, please. This is my
So,
small question.
and I'm sure this small question is very, very important. Without this question, this talk will not be complete. So why the corporates are important for environment conservation, as I explained under the materiality exercise, there is a very stringent law around the air quality maintenance. So if your business is not able to maintain the air quality, you will not allow to work. This is a reason even in China, many of the industries are shutting down. There is examples in Delhi where power plant has been shut down. There are the examples from London. So similar kind of the pollution problem which we are facing in India today, in Delhi, similar kind of problem was there in England, in London. So they have shut down their businesses. So if you want to run the businesses for sustainable way, you need to conserve, you need to maintain the environment. And there are the very heavy cost in terms of the fine has been imposed to the corporates globally. There are examples when there is a damage to the water system, when there is a damage to the biodiversity, when there is a damage to the rock paintings. So you perhaps read an example from Jurong. You just search. Some of the mining has been done in the Aboriginal area, and the Rio Tinto has submitted their apology statement. Senior leadership has been sacked because of this activity. They have not stopped it. They have not taken account. So that's why the importance of environment is improving day by day. The ESG rating. Now the investors are looking your ESG rating when they are investing. Global, you perhaps know DGSI, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. So if you are not performing well, if your DGSI ranking is not good, you will not find the investors. Now the investors are forcing you. The regulatory compliance is another thing which is essential in which geography you are working. But globally, now the investors are very much focusing. They are asking high ESG ratings. You cannot achieve the high ESG rating until and unless you will invest or conserve the environment. In ESG ratings, there are clearly mentioning how much water you are using, how much water you are polluting, how much air quality you are polluting, how much carbon dioxide you are emitting, how you are biodiversity conserving. So all these parameters are clearly indicated when we go for the ESG ratings.
Can you please address one question from C in the chat box?
Yeah, may I request Dr. Asad if you will read that it will help me.
Okay, the comment is basically, is there any restoration activity after mining? I think you have already explained in case number 2 or case number 1.
Yes. So there are a couple of cases, and so there is a lot of restoration work has been done after the mining. So there are some very good examples from Australia. Some of the coal mines has been restored completely. Similarly, there are very good examples from Canada. There are very good examples from Africa as well as from Asia.
Okay, Dr. Hishmi, I think we have less time. There is one more question on the chat window, but before that, um, in fact, I'm feeling uncomfortable because there is something rotating in my mind to speak out.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, and it would be basically an addition to your interventions. It will neither be any critics or nor be any other kind of intervention. It's just adding and incorporating, right?
Yeah, please.
Yes. So what I want to speak is that, let me first of all compliment on the group you are working with. That's Tata. Tata is the world famous name, and as of my experience, I have not very good feeling and impression of the corporates and the behavior of the corporates, particularly the behavior to the environment, to the natural resources of the earth, and to the indigenous people and the human rights. But Tata, as I know, even before the concept of the corporate social responsibility, which emerged of late, the Tata has a history and the legacy of, you know, serving the society in India. And I remember the largest investment of Tata has been into the academic institutions, the research. There are lot many research institutions established by Tata, including the health research, like uh, like the cancer hospital in Mumbai, and also the Terry institution in Delhi, particularly, is very big. I know I was living very close to Tata Research Institute, Terry, when it was a Terry before the Terry University. So Tata has a very long history, but still there are that Tata is not sacred in terms of the environmental damage and environment history of the environmental damage. So Tata is the same like other industries. So okay, other than after this compliment, I just come to interesting thing is related to the behavior of the corporates these days. Basically, the corporate behavior is regulated not by any environmental consciousness. It is basically regulated by consumers, investors. As you have spoken just recently, that the string is in the hand of the investors, basically. So there are many instruments that have been developed of late globally, that these corporates have started changing their strategies because they have to survive. And the concerns of the environment actually are not very new also in any country. There are these concerns are very old, from the industrial revolution of Europe. And in the last century, 20th century, I mean, largely the polluting industries have shifted to the developing countries from the developed countries, from America, from Europe, from other parts. So they have shifted to the most polluting countries and most corrupt countries. And those are the havens for these polluting industries and corrupt industries. So this is actually a global phenomena, and how wherever there is a race to the bottom, or race to bottom is a concept when the minimum regulations are existing in the countries, or the minimum only minimum compliances are required from the industry. So such phenomena are existing, and these industries are really not benefiting, and they have really no interest for saving the environment or anything. They are simply saving their own skin. They are simply saving their own investors' interests and their own benefits. Even the corporate social responsibility is just a lip service. It is really a lip service. And in India is just a joking example, when the current prime minister has simply ordered all the CSR money to go into his relief fund, particularly in the Corona period. And we all know how accountable that relief fund is. It's just a joke. And all corporates were forced to spend to divert the money into the relief fund. So, I mean, it is all political and business interests, how they invest the money and how where they invest money. This is really funny things happen. Now coming to the initiatives which you have discussed, they are very wonderful. They look very attractive, no doubt. But still, the objectivity is always questioned. Why are the investments on this the environmental projects is done only in the diamond mining areas, for example? So if you really have the big interest, larger interest, why don't you invest in the other locations? And then also the partnership, like you have mentioned, the Bombay Natural History Society. This is the elite institution, elite NGO of this country. I know about it very well. I know the founder of it. I know the current director of it. So these are all the elite kind of the nexus of the big institutions. This is just my observation, and I have lot of examples, lot of arguments to support my statements. I'm not simply uh, speaking in air. So now, okay, after these two comments, basically I like to draw your attention to the corporate. Please close your mic. Somebody's mic is off. So I simply request you to your attention to corporate accountability. Basically, in this whole framework, even this framework is given by the United Nations institutions like CBD or many others. Um, so these frameworks are just like not holding the corporate accountable for their own acts, for their own behavior. So where is the corporate accountability? If something happens, the corporates like they run away, or they raise the hands, or simply they provide the lip service. Is a classical example of in developing countries, particularly India. We have seen that these companies they simply bribe to the government people and powerful people. Number one, number two, they give the donation in the temples just to make the communities happy. And they know that the religion is the biggest weakness of this community, these people. You just give some donation in the temples, then everybody will be happy. Will be happily give you the lands. They will not raise any question against you. So this is the reality, and this is happening for millennia. I mean, like many centuries. All the rich people have been doing like this. They have been taking away the lands of the poor people, and they simply are giving the lollipop. That's it. And more so in the name of the religion. So these are the realities. So where is the corporate accountability? That corporates should be held accountable legally, morally, socially, environmentally. So I'm not questioning you. It's just I'm saying think about it. There is some literature available on the corporate accountability also. Even I have written a couple of papers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hasrat. And I'm sure what you are talking, this is from your heart. And these are some real facts. So whatever people are doing as a human, we all are greedy. We work only when we found the benefits. But only the awareness sympathy, and knowledge help us to understand that we are here to help each other.
So any question or comment anybody wants? Otherwise, we close this session today's. Any
Hello, sir.
friends? Please.
Hello, sir. Once again,
Please,
I would
please.
like. Once again, one question lingered in my mind, sir. Like, does like biological indicator plays a vital role in biodiversity loss, sir?
What is your question? Could you repeat?
The, does the biological indicator plays a vital role in biodiversity loss?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
these are very vital. If the number of species is reducing, if the number of the IVI, the importance value index is reducing, if the Shannon index is changing, so these are the clear indicators these biodiversities are going to be vanish. And based on that only the IUCN prepare the list, the red data list. And they also classify on the basis of the biological indicators.
Thank you, sir.
You are
Any
welcome.
other question, please? Any other question or comment? Can also give reflection, please. Okay, Dr. Hishmi, I think we will close this session. And really, it was very, very interesting, very fascinating to hear your experiences in very big corporates like Rio Tinto and the Tata. So thank you so much. You have given a time. It was honestly very interesting. So please don't think about my critical comments. Okay, I'm like this.
Thank you very much. It's good to hear this, sir.
Okay, so yes, please, audience also. I believe that you have benefited from his lecture, and very insightful lecture really on this particular topic, the biodiversity and the corporates interventions. So thank you so much, all of you. Maybe I think after 2 days, 2-3 days, we will meet again on the next lectures. Thank you all. We
Thank you.
close.
Bye. God bless you all. Bye bye.